Divorce. That's devastating. Right?
It's a living death.
It's a living death.
For the children too.
For the children too. It can hurt the kids.
Forever, forever.
Forever.
Possibly.
Anything else? How about financial ruin? Right? You lost everything.
Health.
Health. That's a good one. I wasn't thinking about that. I should. How about when we're attacked by the enemy like we went through with 9/11? I mean, a lot of that was devastating. I still have pictures in my mind of those two towers. Self-esteem issues. How about you just made a big mistake in life? Remember Pastor Corey talked about that. Remember? That was such a good message. And he was saying, you just don't let something that happened back then keep you from doing something now in the future with God. But that's the way Satan will work on us. That's the way the enemy will. He says, you know, he will mess you up that way. He'll keep reminding you of that past mistake in life. How about if you were incarcerated? That can have a major impact. So these are things that can literally knock a person out. 2 Samuel chapter 13, we meet a woman named Tamar, who has dealt with a blow so severe that it knocked her out. This is one of the stories in the Bible that we don't really pay a lot of attention to. We just sort of go through it because most of the attention goes to the two rascals that are involved with this. Actually three, in my opinion. And we're going to drill down on that. So we're going to see elements of Tamar's story, as you can read there. In reading her pain, you will see the power of negative influences, scheming and plotting to do evil, betrayal, rape, revenge, reaping and sowing, a family in turmoil, and holding on to pain. I think she's got one. Oh, sorry. All right, the story opens, or the story begins in 2 Samuel chapter 13, and I'd like to see somebody read the first 4 verses of chapter 13. Who would like to do that? You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, Joey.
Now David's son Absalom had a beautiful sister named Tamar, and Amnon, her half-brother, fell desperately in love with her. Amnon became so obsessed with Tamar that he became ill. She was a virgin, and Amnon thought he could never have her. But Amnon had a very crafty friend, his cousin Jonadab. He was the son of David's brother Shemaiah. One day Jonadab said to Amnon, "What's the trouble? Why should the son of a king look so dejected morning after morning?" So Amnon told him, "I am in love with Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister."
Very good, thank you. Now this is lining up what's happening. Here's a half-brother, half-sister, and he is so in love with her that he's becoming ill. Have you ever been in love that much?
Yeah.
Really, come on.
Yeah.
This is your chance, this is your
Yeah.
chance.
Still am.
Is love really supposed to be that crazy?
Yeah.
Is it? Is love supposed to be that crazy?
It's crazy. I don't know about that. Where did love come from?
Yeah, that's right. That's all right. Where does love come from? All right. So here we got the setting. You got to know what's going on, and just to make sure we understand it here, Absalom was a beautiful sister of Tamar, and David's son Amnon was infatuated with her. Now, Tamar was the full sister of Absalom, the half-sister of Abner, okay? All right. Who's the daddy to all of them? King David. All right, let's continue. 2 Samuel 13, verse 5 through 19. It's a little lengthy, but who would like to read that?
I'll read it.
You got it, Medora? Okay.
Go to bed and pretend to be ill, Jonadab said. When your father comes to see you, say to him, I would like my sister Tamar to come and give me something to eat. Let her prepare the food in my sight, so I may watch her and then eat it from her hand. So Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill. When the king came to see him, Amnon said to him, I would like my sister Tamar to come and make some special bread in my sight, so I may eat from her hand. David sent word to Tamar at the palace, go to the house of your brother Amnon and prepare some food for him. So Tamar went to the house of her brother Amnon, who was lying down. She took some dough, kneaded it, made the bread in his sight, and baked it. Then she took the pan and served him the bread, but he refused to eat. Send everyone out of here, Amnon said, so everyone left him. Then Amnon said to Tamar, bring the food here into my bedroom, so I may eat from your hand. And Tamar took the bread she had prepared and brought it to her brother Amnon in his bedroom. But when she took it to him to eat, he grabbed her and said, come to bed with me, my sister. Don't, my brother, she said to him. Don't force me. Such a thing should not be done in Israel. Don't do this wicked thing. What about me? Where could I get rid of my disgrace? And what about you? You would be like one of the wicked fools in Israel. Please speak to the king. He will not keep me from being married to you. But he refused to listen to her, and since he was stronger than her, he raped her. Then Amnon hated her with intense hatred. In fact, he hated her more than he had loved her. Amnon said to her, get up and get out. No, she said to him, sending me away would be a greater wrong than what you have already done to me. But he refused to listen to her. He called his personal servant and said, get this woman out of here and bolt the door after her. So his servant put her out and bolted the door after her. She was wearing a richly ornamented robe, for this was the kind of garment the virgin daughters of the king wore. Tamar put ashes on her head and tore the ornamented robe she was wearing. She put her hand on her head and went away, weeping aloud as she went.
Wow.
Pretty violent situation.
Yeah.
Pretty violent situation. Why did she rip her robe?
She was disgraced.
She was disgraced, that's right. She was so disgraced, she was just, that was like a tradition. Men would do it too. And they would, kick dust on themselves sometime. Now here she put ashes on herself. She was disgraced. She was ashamed. Here's a man who was so in love with her, sickly in love with her, that as soon as he raped her, his hate for her was more so than his best day that he loved her. Can you imagine that? Can you think of any real life situations where there's been a Jonadab behind the scenes that made a relationship worse?
Yes.
Sometimes that can happen.
Well, people, in families, people undermine each other, so you don't know that they're doing it, and then something's coming out bad, it smells, it stinks,
Yeah. Sometimes people have good intentions, but more times than not, unfortunately, they're just unhappy maybe with their life, and they want to see somebody else unhappy too. And you could be vulnerable to that. You could be vulnerable to that.
What were we talking about, Anna, in the beginning?
Yeah, Amnon was the one who was sickly in love. And Jonadab was his cousin, is his cousin. And he whispers in his ear, why are you looking so awful? You should be around, and he said, that's what he told him. I'm so in love, I can't even eat, I can't walk, I can't, I'm so in love, I'm not, I can't do anything right. So he says, well, then here, he gave him the ploy, he gave him the trick. He said, why don't you tell your dad, the king, that you're not feeling well, and you want her to come in and prepare the meal for you. Got it?
Oh, yeah,
And that's the scene, and, you know, and then he took advantage of that. He let her come in, let her do that, then he kicked everybody out, and then he raped her. Then after he committed that violent act, he hated her. No, the Bible says he was in love with her.
He never loved her to start with.
Because she rejected. He was in lust with her.
He wanted, she was, I think what she was saying, look, you don't have to do this. David will, the king will allow us to get married. And he couldn't wait. Or he didn't want to wait. Whatever was going through his mind.
I think that kind of.
What was your point in
That, he was never in love with her. That's not love. It's lust.
He thought he was.
And if he was in love, he'd still be in love.
Well, I think he wanted her to respond in a certain way, and she didn't afterwards. You know, I think he wanted her to respond with love too, and she didn't, for a number of reasons, because she felt guilty because she was his half-sister.
Yeah.
You know, so it was pure guilt and shame, so he felt the hate because of all the shame.
That's what I was thinking.
I disagree as well.
I disagree, but that's okay.
Well, look.
That's all right. I can only go by what, I'll go with what the Bible says. The Bible says about it.
End of story.
So, I don't know if we should try to psychoanalyze that. You know, but I understand what you're saying. I understand, I get that. But for us to say, I would not say, if I was teaching somebody this, and I'm trying. But if you're teaching somebody this, I wouldn't necessarily say, the Bible says he loved her, but I'm going to tell you I really don't think he did. You with me? I think there could be a little bit of danger in that, because then it's opening you up to other interpretation that you can get challenged on. Because they're going to say, well, the Bible says this, and you say, well, that part is true, but this part I don't think God meant it that way.
He wouldn't have written it that way.
I don't think it written it that way.
Which word for love is used there?
Well, this is written in the Hebrew, right?
Okay.
This is the original scriptures. Now, did you notice how I said that? I tell you, where did I get that? The original scriptures. Remember when
Yeah.
our friend Peter Gaines, and he was saying one of the things that offend a Jewish believer or a Jewish person when you're talking to them, and I never heard that before. I thought that, boy, you get nuggets every time you hear something, don't you? I'm giving you nuggets right now, you're not getting them a bit. But that is the original scripture, because if you call them the Old Testament, it's like yours is the Old Testament, ours is the New Testament.
Yeah.
So I thought that was such an excellent point. So I try not to call it the Old Testament, even though it says Old Testament. No.
Well, you can't change the word.
Oh,